All right, we're giving this thing a go here. Apparently, we are streaming and we're somehow in excellent condition. I didn't let anybody know that I was going to be streaming, so I doubt there's any viewers that are live. But if somebody happens upon this and joins the party, I believe that yeah, everything is working pretty well. So this particular situation here, where I am in my studio, I'm going to be leaving the studio and moving to another location, and I've been working on that for quite a while now, getting that all ready to go. And I had the internet and hooked up today. It's a little tiny house that's a one room studio, not far from where I live. So it's a tiny house studio. And it's the purpose of what I'm trying to do there is to just be able to focus on making artwork, taking on any kind of creative projects that I have without the distractions of, being at home and being in a basement studio, which I'm currently in. What I realized today is that I have to bring my PC, all of this equipment, everything that I have spent countless hours trying to set up in this area of my basement. I'm going to need to pack it all up, and I'm going to have to carry it to my other location because these I have another computer, a secondary computer there that's an older laptop, and I have everything going. I have all the cameras, I had all the lights, everything is ready to go, but then it just lags terribly. It can't really sustain the pressure of a stream. It's a Mac laptop from 2012 that I tried to upgrade, and yeah, it really is kind of a mess. So I tried doing a test stream from this other location, and I don't think it's because the internet is too slow. I think it is because the computer that I was streaming from just simply couldn't handle it. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and move to a more of like a digital art stream situation. So what I'll do is I'm just gonna draw something. I'm just gonna go in and do some drawing in Photoshop, and I'm not really sure what I'm going to draw, but what I'm trying to do is just make sure that all this equipment works properly, and things are smooth. So I'll continue talking about whatever happens to come to mind, and I'll start drawing whatever I happen to stumble upon, and we'll see where the journey takes us. So um, I don't know. Maybe I'm just gonna go ahead and create a new document. I'll keep this relatively small because I don't really. Um, well, I guess I could go a little crazy. I'll just do a custom canvas that's a decent size, something along the lines of that, and I'll just start sketching away here. But I need some inspiration, so let me see. What should I draw? I'm going to need to find a reference for something to draw before I get into it. Um, and I believe the chat works. I'm going to try to chat with myself right now in the chat. So I'm going to ask. I'm going to ask myself, "Hey, oh, I just said hey. I said hello to myself just now. What are you drawing? What are you drawing?" Well, there's the question, right? That's the $1 million question: is what am I going to draw? Let's see. Um, I'll make a new window and I'll just go to Google and let's see some inspiration. I'll draw something from Harry Potter. I'm going to go ahead and draw something from Harry Potter. Which character? I'm gonna draw Lucius Malfoy. bad guy. My daughter and I have been watching Harry Potter, and I don't know. Visually, I just think he's a really cool character. He sort of seems almost like a vampire or something, like a Victorian age vampire. He's kind of slick and just evil and sneaky, um, And then he pretty much has a breakdown in the movie, and you can see his character sort of disintegrating throughout the films. Jason Isaacs is the actor that played Malfoy, Lucius Malfoy in the films. This is a pretty cool shot right here. I'm going to go ahead and grab a reference. I don't have it on the screen. I have it on another monitor. And I'm going to go ahead and just open that in a new tab and see if I can just go ahead and save it. We'll save it to my desktop. And we'll call this Malfoy drawing. And we're going to do a little digital drawing of Lucius Malfoy from Harry Potter. So I chatted with myself, and again, this is a live stream test because I'm really checking the ability of my PC to handle a live stream situation. And I have done some streaming on Twitch, and I just recently have come to the realization that it probably doesn't make any sense for me to be streaming on Twitch because I've already built a bit of a YouTube audience, and I don't have an audience really on Twitch. I mean, I was starting to get one, but it was really moving pretty slowly. So I thought, well, instead of trying to transfer an audience to another platform, why wouldn't I just make use of the one that I already have on YouTube? All right, so there is that. Let's go ahead and put a ticker on the bottom. So if anyone is interested in checking out more of my work, you can do that. Let me go ahead and put that up there and throw that up there. So you can check me out at Diligent Visual on all social media. I'm on YouTube, obviously. I'm here now. And I'm also on Instagram and Facebook, and I have a website, which is also diligentvisual.com. I think I want to make this a little bit bigger. The reference, no reason to make yourself go blind here, not being able to see what you're looking at. So I'll go with something like around that size, and we'll lock it down. And then I'm going to grab a brush that I think I want to do something that is kind of like a sketching brush. So I'm going to go ahead and go into my brushes. I don't have a ton of brushes. I don't really use them all. You go through like a phase where you feel like you should probably download every brush known to the human race because you never know which one's going to work for you. But I find that you just get really overwhelmed by all the options, and it's simply not necessary. So I'm going to go with a organic chalk brush. Nah, that may be not the idea. Maybe a lino crayon. No. Maybe a regular crayon. Maybe some chalk. Chalk will probably be okay. All right, we got our opacity turned way down. We're not going to do that. And we're going to make a layer for the pencil drawing. So if you can see the tiny settings of the layer here, you've got a layer on top. We've got our reference that is locked. We have our background that is not locked, but we're good. We're floating above it right now. And I'm going to get a rather small brush. And I think I'll do this sketch with kind of like a sepia tone. Not anything too crazy. And I think what I'll also do is maybe tone the surface. So I'm going to tone the surface of my paper with sort of like a medium gray. Something around like that looks good. Go ahead and fill this layer. And obviously we can flash in between the seeing the reference and not seeing the reference. And just going to go ahead and do some sketching here and see where this takes us. So I'll put this over here. Got to change the color and make it darker. Can't see anything that you're drawing. This is a pro tip, my friends. If you are drawing with the same color that your background is, you won't see your drawing. Imagine that. You're welcome for that little art education lesson right there. If you draw with the same color that you're working on, the surface that you're working on, you won't see your drawing. Genius, right? Genius. All right, so I'm just kind of roughing this in. And the really cool thing about digital art, I think, is that we just have endless options, and you can almost just make a mess and embrace the imperfections, because they're very temporary. In digital art, you can simply just get rid of them. Lucius Malfoy, evil. I guess he ends up being not so evil at the end of the movie, doesn't he? I don't know, by the way, also if I should turn on closed captioning on this. And I think probably the viewer that I have is me, probably myself. I don't know if I'm viewing my own stream right now. Like I said, I was streaming on Twitch for a long time. I kind of got the hang of that. I sort of figured out how that works. And then I aborted the mission, and here I am on YouTube. But I didn't tell anybody I was going live. I just wanted to, again, try out some of this stuff. I'm in the process of moving to a new studio, a new location with all new issues. Because when you start over anything and it comes to setting up the technology that I'm using, you run into all new problems that you have to address. And what I'm doing right here is really just a mess. I'm kind of creating a bunch of slop, and then I'll sift my way through it. There is a method to the madness. It is going to hopefully end up looking like something. No guarantees. No guarantees here. But, I mean, I've drawn a few faces in my time, so I'm pretty sure it's going to be okay. And really, this is just the shorthand version of the structure of Malfoy's face. And I'll just tweak it and work it out. And right now, like I said, a big mess, but what will eventually happen is I'll lighten these lines, and then I'll start to really fine tune what's happening in the piece and have it make sense. And I'm really trying to capture this attitude where the camera is below him, so it makes him seem like this imposing, dangerous figure. He's more powerful than you are. It's implied that he's, he's better than you. And I think that's pretty much the gist of this character's personality in the movies, is that he views himself as superior to people who are not born to the idea of magic, are born to magical parents, I guess, to the muggles. And as far as I know, nobody that's out there on YouTube was born to magical parents. So here we are looking at Lucius Malfoy, who is better than us because he is a pure wizard, pure blood wizard. There were some videos on YouTube that I enjoyed after watching, the Harry Potter movies with my daughter. I kind of went back in and did a little more of a deep research dive into the background of a lot of it. So I would watch these videos that kind of break down like the origins of the characters and the stuff that may have not been included in the movies. I started to read the books, and I know you can get some of that information from the books, um, but I kind of fell off of that. I find that I don't have a ton of time to read for you know relaxation. There just seems to be so many other things, like what I'm doing right here. For one, is kind of practicing drawing and trying to keep training and keeping the skills up. That's a pretty important thing. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this scribbled nonsense that I have just created, which is almost sort of like a quick gestural idea, like a shorthand for what I want to show with this character. We're roughing things in. And what I'm going to do is scale it. I'm going to scale it up so that it is the size that I want. I want to fill the space a little bit more. I have this big canvas and all this real estate, and I'm not really using it. So I'm going to scale this up a bit. And then I will begin to refine it. And there's not a lot of detail in here. That's one of the reasons that I grabbed this reference, is that most of it is just negative space where I don't need to worry about it in the interest of time, to not have this be a 20-hour marathon here. I'm just going to do a little sketch, and let's go ahead and make this invisible, and let's work on the composition. So we're going to take the layer with the lines on it and going to enlarge it quite a bit to fill that space. Yeah, why not? I mean, we might as well use all this. We got all these pixels. We might as well just use them, right? Why not? Crazy. Why not use all the backyard? There we go. So compositionally, that's fine. That's fine. I mean, I don't think it's going to win any awards, but it's fine. So let's go ahead and take the lines and put them under our friend Malfoy. Let's also take the whole layer, and we're going to turn the fill down to, I don't know, 30%, 25% or so that we kind of have a breakdown. We sort of gave ourselves a roadmap as to where we want to go with the image. And probably a good idea would be just to take this thing and move it. I can move it to another document. You can also use another piece of software. There's a pretty useful one that's called, I haven't really used it a lot, so I feel like I'm fumbling with it a bit. It's called PureRef. And what PureRef will do is allow you to grab a bunch of references and have it always floating in another document on top, and it doesn't get in the way of your Photoshop space. So I'm going to just go ahead and forego that whole idea, and we're going to take Mr. Malfoy. Let's select what's on this layer, and we're going to go Edit, Copy, and then we'll go File, New, and then we're going to create a new document and edit, paste. And what that will do, if you copy it and you make a new document, it will make that new document the same size as what you copied. So you don't have to worry about it fitting or not fitting. Okay, so now we have a document with our drawing, which we want to keep that as the larger one. That's the most important one. And then we have our reference of our friend here, looking all arrogant and egotistical, just the way that we know him. I'm going to shrink that down a little bit. And we'll let that kind of chill over on the side down here somewhere. There's other ways to do this and probably more efficient ones, but again, you sort of fall into these weird habits. Like, I've been using Photoshop for over 20 years, and there were features that just didn't exist. So you find ways of doing things, and then you end up just always going back to those instead of moving with the times sometimes. So you kind of follow yourself with technology, finding yourself following bad habits sometimes. But whatever, we're good. We'll be okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead now that I've lightened this drawing, and I'm going to put another layer over the top of that drawing, and I'm going to go back in with a darker brush. And I think I want to change it up a little bit. I don't love that brush. It's a little bit clunky. So I think what I'll do is just go with a hard round brush, and 45 pixels is a bit too much. So we'll bracket that down to a better size. And then we'll go ahead and add another layer of some drawing over this. So let's see. And we'll make these little adjustments as we go. This underdrawing is not, it's not carved out of marble. So I'm not thinking that any of these moves are my final situation. I'm going to try something here too. Maybe, forget it. We'll just leave it alone. We'll just leave it alone and let the brown brush do what it does. And in the final version of this, on the final layer, the one that I want to look really clean and well thought out as a finished drawing, I probably won't use sketchy lines like this. But for now, I don't know. It's kind of the way that I've always worked. So again, sometimes we fall into some weird bad habits. And what I'm doing here is connecting. I'm sort of connecting these. They're called rhythms. And if I sort of loop over the top like that and connect the outside of the eyebrows, it's a way to sort of lock down parts of the face and make sure that what you're doing is making sense. The same thing with this keystone shape between the nose. There will be like a circle or an oval between the eyebrows. And then we'll go ahead and start to put this in. The bridge of the nose here is just below the eyebrows, and the features are a little bit distorted because they're in perspective. There's some foreshortening happening here because of the camera angle, where we're looking up at the character. So I want to make sure that I am holding true to that. So I don't know where these videos go, these live streams, but I think what I did was, and I don't know if I did it correctly because this is the first time I've streamed live on YouTube. I made a playlist called live streams, and I believe that people can watch these back and enjoy them later if they didn't see them. So I think what I'll do if this works out and this ends up being an option for me, I'll start telling people, actually notifying them that I'm streaming. All right. So again, I'm looking at these areas that I can find that it's almost like math, right? It's almost like graphing a map of a face, like a cartography. What is that called when they map the elevations and in a map? There's a word for it. I can't think what it is off the top of my head, but I'm doing a similar thing where I'm kind of observing these things and how they connect and the rhythms that they form. And I'm just sort of inching my way into them, and I'm moving things slightly. I'm solving all these problems, right? I'm kind of scanning this reference, and I took in the whole image as a whole, and now what I'm doing is kind of like breaking it down and piecing this together, almost like what you would do with a puzzle. If anybody's interested in the thought process behind the way that I'm going to approach a drawing. And I don't always draw like this, but it is usually something pretty close to this. Once you develop a technique, once you develop a process, um, it's probably a good idea to stick with it, just so you can be consistent. And then I'm noticing like this light. Okay, so this light kind of comes in on the corner of the eye. The eyebrow points down to it, and if I follow this line on a diagonal down here, it links up with the shadow on the face and then cuts across the chin. So all these little crisscrossing lines that I'm making, eventually they'll all go away, and I can easily get rid of them because I'm putting them on a separate layer in Photoshop. And you can do this in any digital program. Now, if I was doing this process in a traditional medium, like if I was drawing this with pencil and paper, I probably would use either a really light touch if I was going to do the whole thing in pencil, because I wouldn't want to see those underlying forms, but I would still need to figure them out. Or what some people will do is use a colored pencil. So I would use a light colored pencil, like a light blue or a light green, and I would lay in all these underlying forms and maybe even erase them to knock them back a bit. And then as I came in with my final medium, which might be, graphite, a regular pencil, or a darker color, once I had everything figured out, then those underlying tones would just become like a supporting cast. It would almost be like the foundation that holds up the house. You don't really see it, but it's there. It's there because the house couldn't stand up if it didn't have a foundation. And I like to see some of those things too. I mean, maybe that's just me being kind of an art nerd. When I'm looking at people's work, when I'm looking at sketches, I like to see that underlying stuff. I like to see that thought process and kind of break it down, especially when it's an artist whose work I admire. I used to love collecting sketchbooks of various artists when I would go to conventions in the old world, when we used to have those things called conventions. I hope that that's not a story that I tell my grandchildren. When I was younger, we used to have this thing called a convention, and everybody would go there, and it was awesome and super cool, and you can buy all kinds of really great stuff that you couldn't find anywhere else, and you can meet artists, your favorite people, and you can buy their stuff, and you can see their sketchbooks and get autographs from celebrities. And the kids will go, "What? You used to do that? That's not safe. Can't be around people." But anyway, I don't want to make it into one of those depressing commentaries about pandemics and whatnot. I'm just trying to do a drawing and test out this whole YouTube streaming situation. By the way, if anyone is out there joining me, I'm chatting with myself right now, but you are certainly welcome to join the party and chat with me. I would love that. Let me know where you're watching from, any of that, what your experience is, what your interest is with this sort of thing. What I should have done is invited like one of my kids or my mom or something, and just been like, hey mom, can you type in the chat and let me know that everything's working? I apologize for the useless, senseless banter, but one of the things that I want to make sure of is when I do this and I record these streams, that the audio is clear, everything is working as it should be, because I plan to, once I move into my new space, I plan to do a lot more stuff like this. And it feels like after the disaster of a test that I had, technology test today, that it was probably my 2012 laptop that was not working. It wasn't the new internet that I just had that I just turned on in this new studio. And I don't know how this works either with me being able to see who is, if there are viewers out there, which is probably a thing that's good to not know exactly who's out there, because sometimes I would stream and there would be no one, and I'd literally just be talking to myself. Um, so I mean, that's probably okay. I suppose it's not unhealthy to have a conversation with yourself once in a while. So yeah. Anyway, if you are viewing and you are with me and you are interested in helping me out a bit, just throw something in the chat so I can make sure that that works. That was the point of that whole 5-minute rant about is there anybody out there? It's not if you can hear me. That's a bit of a Pink Floyd reference. Sorry. Maybe I'm showing my age. Perhaps. But we're drawing an evil villain here, so who's probably, I think Jason Isaacs is probably a bit older than I am. All my hair isn't white yet. His was in the movie, being the point. All right, I'm going to go ahead and just, what I'm doing here with these hatching lines is I'm just throwing in some tone, almost as a placeholder, which you'll sometimes see comic book artists do, is they will put X's in the dark areas, which is a notation to the inker, which sometimes or oftentimes, I'm not sure anymore, it's been a while, there would be someone else who would ink a pencil drawing in a comic book. So there would be a notation there for the areas that were supposed to be blacked out entirely. I'm a little bit concerned with the sound above my head because I took my dog for a walk, and people are out and about. My family's out and about doing things, or either at work or at a friend's or whatever, and I hear this little dog running around upstairs, and I just have no idea what he's doing right now. So I'll have to design one of those "I'll be right back" banners for streaming. I don't know if I'm ever going to become that important where people will see the "Be Right Back" sign and stick around, but I'll just go ahead and deal with whatever that little dog does when I get to it. He's probably eating a shoe or something. I don't know. He doesn't usually eat shoes, but he does like socks quite a bit. It's like his favorite thing. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do another one of these kind of these checks, right? So if the rhythms seem to flow naturally, then you probably have the features in the right face, or the right place. You have the features in the right face. I hope so, man, because if you put the features on the wrong face, it didn't look like the person. You blew it on the likeness, didn't you? Yeah, this is probably an acquired taste too. Like I don't know if there would be a whole lot of interest of people who are not into art or drawing to watch something like this, because it might seem like I'm just on here speaking a completely foreign language. If you're not an artist, if you are an art person, then you could probably see what I'm doing and maybe have a bit of an appreciation, and hopefully you could take something away from it. You can learn a little bit from it, because a big reason that I like to stream my art is because I like to interact with people and engage with people and hopefully maybe offer a little bit of value. to people who are interested in doing this sort of thing. And we usually have conversations about art and life and, what other random stuff comes up, I guess. Which I think is really the beauty of the live stream, is that you can connect with people in a way that previously would have been impossible in the world I grew up with. Because there's no way when 20 years ago when I was working in my studio on something, I was doing a drawing, that I would be able to invite people over to just kind of sit, hang out, and watch me draw. The internet has provided us some pretty interesting, great stuff, and probably ruined us a bit as well in the process. But again, I don't want to sound like an old guy, even though I am an old guy for this game. Let's see. So I'm gonna keep on building things up, and you got to be really patient with this sort of thing, because it's a struggle. You're wrestling with the idea of trying to get things to sit in the right place. You're trying to keep moving these puzzle pieces around a little bit this way, a little bit that way, until finally, it just feels right and it looks right and it is all in agreement. So patience is definitely a huge part of learning to draw, being an artist. I read something today, actually, while I was sitting around waiting for my son to finish his practice so I can pick him up, his soccer practice. I had a book and I read something about creativity and art by one of my favorite artists, who's also got an awesome YouTube channel, Marco Bucci, which he's a Canadian artist, and he's worked for some big companies like Disney, and he teaches classes. But he wrote a book called Creativity by the Campfire, and I was reading that, and one of the things that he talks about is, the fact that it really requires the patience to build a skill and just be okay with the fact that you're going to fail, and the failure is part of the process. It's part of the learning. And you not only you don't have to accept it. You want to keep working toward getting better, but you do have to almost learn to appreciate the failure. So every line that I put down is not it's not the final answer, right? This is not me creating a math problem, and it's not just about 2 plus 2. There's so many little variations and calculations and fudging things around until it fits. And that's the sort of thing that I like, and I think that that's why I gravitate toward art, and that's why I'm an artist, is because I enjoy the problem solving, but I don't enjoy the in the box, sort of thinking that you have when you're dealing with mathematics or something like that, where it has to be there's a right answer, there's a way to get to it, and we all must go this route. I like art because it's a bit more open-ended problem solving. I don't know. I feel like this should probably bust out a little bit further right here. I could be wrong, but I feel like it needs a little bit more room. Something along those lines. And I'm really building up a lot of the lines, a lot of the under structure of the face here. I'm observing these rhythms. I'm checking them and cross-checking them. And I'm almost visually making notes or marks in my mind. Sometimes people will call them plumb lines, where you can look at something and go, okay, that is straight down. If I made a straight line down from the inside corner of his eye, this eye socket, if I made a straight vertical line down this way, what would I hit? If I look at the reference, I see that I would hit the corner of his mouth. Now we all know, at this point where the mouth is. It's not like you're going to put it on the chin or where the ear is supposed to go. We know where the mouth goes generally. But if you can do that sort of comparative measuring, you'll find that it is quite a bit easier to solve these problems. And then if I draw a straight line up from the other corner of the mouth, it runs into this side of the eye. And if I got that right, if I got the placement of that right, then this should make sense. And I think that it does. So we're good there. We made it. We're getting this. This is happening. And then there's this, you have to really take into consideration that the mouth is sitting on a muzzle shape, almost like a can, like a rounded cylinder. So if I put that in here and kind of arc it through this way, and then I stop it here and I stop it here. Might even help to go under the nose with that shape. And then down here, we would see a little bit of the bottom of that can. And that gives us now the ability to go, okay, if the lips are sitting on that, then they will have a little bit of an arc that sort of goes around this way, like so. I think I made his lips a little bit thicker than the character himself, but I'm not looking for this like super dead on accurate drawing here. This is kind of like just a study of a face. So I'm actually okay with that, and I can adjust it later. Again, that's the beauty of digital art, is that it allows for endless manipulation and endless changes. And that is a strength of the medium, and that is also the downfall for some people, because if you have too many options, you have too many outs, you have a hard time making a decision and sticking with it. So there's people who are addicted to the undo button. So you want to try to keep that under control and not be an undo addict. Just like, nope, wrong, and you just keep getting rid of it, and then the drawing will never happen because you just kept deleting everything. I think that makes sense. I hope. And nobody out there that's an undo addict finds that offensive. Because it's a trap. It's a trap. It's a trap that you can fall into. All right, bringing this in a little bit. This is actually like I chose a pretty challenging pose for this first live stream. But I think another thing that I like to talk about with artists that I teach or that I work with is just don't be afraid. Just do it. The worst thing that can happen is you make a bad drawing. If you make a bad drawing, don't show anybody. Spoken from the guy who's making a bad drawing and posting it as a live stream on YouTube. So maybe I should follow my own advice. But I'm not afraid. I think y'all will forgive me. Whoever watches this will forgive me if I... You always want to do your best work. I mean, you always want to come into the finish line with a drawing that you can be proud of. But when it doesn't happen, you just chalk it up to experience. You did some work. You got some mileage, meaning you spent the time. You fought the fight. You didn't win. You got knocked out. But guess what? You're going to get back up to fight another day, because that's what we do. If you're really interested in art and learning how to do something at a high level, do anything at a high level, really, um, you know that better than anyone, that it's not going to happen overnight. It's not in it. There's a possibility it might not even happen, because there really are only two options, as I like to tell people. You're either going to get good or you're going to quit. You want it and you do it and you stay with it and you ride it out, and eventually, once you put in all that work, you will get good. Or you will realize at some point that this is not for you and you'll quit. And there's no shame in that. I think it's actually it takes some courage to quit. Sometimes we get trapped in something and we stay in it just because we think that it's wrong to quit. It's not always wrong to quit. You just have to master the art of quitting at the right time. I think I got that from Seth Godin. That piece of knowledge. That wasn't me being a modern day philosopher. I believe I had read I read several of his books, but that idea seems like something that I read in one of his books. Want to make sure I credit the creator. We're all in this together, my friends, and nobody's getting out alive. That is the harsh reality. That, my friends, is the harsh reality. All right, we're kind of rounding the corner here on at least having something that's starting to look like a face. One of the things that I see a lot of artists utilizing, digital artists, which I think is a smart move, is flipping the canvas. So what I'm going to do here is go ahead and go to image rotation, and I'm going to flip this canvas not vertically. I can never remember that. Like, what do they mean? But when they say image and then I go to image rotation and I flip it horizontally, I'm flipping it along the horizontal axis, right? Now, when I flip this, I have fresh eyes on it. So what's happening is I'm really starting to detect that everything is kind of melting down in this direction. So I would want to start to get a handle on that. I would probably move this up, or I would take a little bit of this off and move this up and that down. And I'm just going to I'm not looking at the reference now when I do this. And the reason I'm not looking at the reference is because the reference is still facing the other way. So what I'm doing here is trying to fix my drawing while looking at it as it's flipped, like a mirror image of it. And the reason for that, if you're curious why people would do that, why artists do that, it changes your view, and you start to fill in the blanks and figure things out. And you just go, oh, that I've been staring at this for a while, so it must be right. It makes sense because, I've been dealing with it all this time, and it just, okay, it's cool, and you move on. Your brain kind of fixes the errors for you, I suppose. And that might have happened to people that are watching this. So if you're watching it and before I flipped it, you were like, oh, okay, it's looking good. And then when I flipped it, you may have been like, whoa, hello. That is kind of jacked up the way that's drawn. I'm going to kind of just fill this in, and he's got this like, it kind of comes in and cuts across and then shoots straight down here. This shadow. You probably want to measure proportions too when you're doing this, and I didn't really do that. Again, probably just out of laziness or in the interest of time. I didn't really measure everything carefully, and that probably was a Bit of a mistake. But that's okay. That's okay. Coming around this way. Coming around the mountain here. And I don't want to work too long on this in the flipped format. So I will flip it back shortly after I kind of tie up some other loose ends. He's kind of got a smug look on his face, and mine almost looks like he's a little bit too happy. He's pleased with himself, but he is not pleased with you. So we'll kind of curl this down a bit so it's a little more smug. I think that was a little bit too much of a diagonal. That's fine. Okay, let me flip this again. I'm going to go to image, and we're going to go to image rotation, and we're going to go flip. Why does my mouse always do this to me? It's like I'm better off just using the tablet or the my pen, using a pressure sensitive tablet to do this drawing, if you wanted to know that. An old Cintiq. I really want a new one, but I really don't want to spend a bunch of money on a new one. So I'll continue to use the old one. I got to find like an angel investor that's going to buy me a new Cintiq. My wife certainly isn't going to buy me one. She's not an artist, so she'll be like, I don't understand. Why would you spend all that money on something? On a monitor? You already have one, don't you? I'm like, but you don't understand. I want the new one. I want the HD one. I want the high definition, high res. I don't know. Maybe I would just be spoiled. I'll make this one work. All right, so there is a bit of a sketch, and then the next stage would be to start to refine it even further. And in doing so, bring it even closer to a finished piece. We need to get this all darkened in. Just going to go ahead and scribble through here. Just because it helps to sort of melt these edges together. Go back around the other side like so. Wrap around the collar here. And let's fill this in. There's faster ways to do that, but not interested in the fast way right now. I'm just interested in the get it in there. See where you're at. Boom. I'm going to go straight down this way with this hair. Kind of flips up. And it looks like the staff, the snake staff, is quite a bit further away from his face than it should be. I want to kind of fill in these eye sockets too, because I'm not really sure I love where those are. So I'm going to kind of scribble over them a bit and make some noise here. And I mean visual noise, like visual static, where it's kind of like hard to see through. It's almost like creating a little bit of a fog or something to cover up bits of it that are bothering me. Avoiding the truth, if you will. Maybe that's what I'm doing, is avoiding the truth. My eyes are telling me, this isn't great. You're not doing it right. And my brain is saying, you don't fail. It's fine. You're okay. Keep going. Keep pressing on. So the visual noise is kind of a way that I'm, my hand and my brain are getting into a bit of an argument here. All right, so this is too far away. We need this to be closer. The space in between here and here is not as much as I had it previously, so I'm going to go ahead and just move this over. I could probably just take what's on that layer and move it over, but I don't want to. I'm just going to redraw it. I didn't spend a bunch of time. Now, this is an important thing. And if anybody ever watches this, maybe this is the spot where I mark in the video notes when I say something that's pretty useful, pretty meaningful. If you spend a bunch of time on one area of a drawing and you get into those details and you get lost in them and you think, I'm going to make the coolest looking snake staff anybody's ever seen, and this is going to blow minds everywhere, and everyone's going to love my drawing because it's perfect, and you sit here and you render the crap out of that snake head, and then you move on to something else in the drawing, and then you realize what I just realized, and that is you drew the snake head in the wrong place. You now have to erase the entire thing and move it. So what you want to do, I think the golden advice, is you want to bring the drawing up slowly, and you want to bring it up gradually, a little bit at a time, and all together. You don't want to work on something where you finish an area and then you move into the next area and finish that and finish and so on. You want to work and bring the drawing up gradually, all together, because you can't get too precious about any part of the drawing. You can't fall in love with any one part of the drawing. If you do, and you did it wrong, you're going to be really sad, and you're going to end up throwing that drawing away and being aggravated, and that leads to people who just frustrate themselves out of trying to get good at this thing that we would like to get good at, called drawing or painting, because what I'm doing here is more of a drawing, but drawing is a gateway into painting. If you draw well, painting becomes much easier for you. It's not completely necessary to be able to draw well, to be able to paint, but it sure does help. I'm telling you. I'm speaking from experience, so take it or leave it. There it is. Art school. Round in the corner, get some hair in there. Worst drawing song ever. I just made it up. I tend to do that sometimes. I kind of banter to myself. Sometimes I make up little songs. All right, well, that is kind of okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and take this bottom layer that has the original drawing on it. You can see those lines. I don't really need them anymore, right? So I'm debating whether I want to delete them completely. Probably in this case, I'll just take that layer and bang, it's gone. I hit delete. Too late, can't get it back. No cheating, no going to the undo button. And now we're dealing with another layer. So I'm going to go ahead and take this one and I'm going to turn it down, down, down. So we have this nice light underdrawing. And things are starting to make sense. Yes, things are starting to make sense. So I'm going to go ahead and make another layer. This layer is going to be at 100%. I'm going to go ahead and now start moving into a little bit more careful detail. So let's go ahead and turn the flow down on my hard brush. I want to see if this works. I actually saw somebody do a demo and it works for them. They're an amazing painter, the person that I watched do the demo. And it totally seems to make sense. And I'm not talking. I'm not saying anything. I'm not going to give it away because it's not really mine to give away. But I'm going to go ahead and make a new layer. I'm just going to do this with a hard round brush. And I'm going to try to start laying in a little bit larger shapes now. And I'm going to start to map this out. And I think I'm going to fill in some of the value. And by filling in some of the value, it'll start to look a little bit more like a clean, finished piece. I don't think I'll worry about the edges so much yet. I do want to make sure those are soft. Hard and soft edges. Important stuff. What's a hard edge? What's a soft edge? Well, there's an edge on something that looks blurry, and there's an edge on something that looks clean and high contrast. And you want a mixture of those edges in your work. If you do not, and everything is the same type of edge, your work looks really amateurish, very digital, and not so appealing. And you will not be impressing your friends and family with your ability. If your edges are all the same. But they're not going to be the same because you watched this video and I just told you that that was important. And you thought, all right, I'll give that a shot. What's this guy talking about with these edges? I think I want to do, let's see, do I want to do, no, I'm thinking out loud here. I'm asking myself questions as to what I want to do with my brush, but I'm going to just leave it as is for right now. And I'll maybe go back and make some adjustments to it later. And all I'm working with here is a simple, hard, round brush. If you do jump in here and you have any questions or anything at all that you'd want to ask or you'd want to share, throw it in the chat. That's what I'm here for. Still got to find out if that chat works. So let me know. Don't be shy. If I didn't want to chat with people, I would have recorded a video and not done it live. It would have been a little easier and a little less pressure. So I'm totally open to any comments or questions that people might have. I glance up at the chat every now and again and see that it's just me chatting with myself as I'm drawing here. I can explain more about what I'm doing, or we can talk about whatever you'd like. Whichever way the wind blows. Do I want to make this thing about adjustable by pressure? I think I do. Go to shape dynamics, and I'm going to go to pen pressure. Yeah, I think I do want to do that. And I did that. Oof, I don't want that in my way. Okay, let's see here. So what I'm really after now is to try to nail some of these shapes. So that is there. I think I brought this down too far, so I'm going to bring that up. And then this is a really killer shape right here, and I want to make sure that I get it right. This thing here that kind of outlines the socket, his eyes are mostly closed because, again, he's better than we are because he's a pure-blooded wizard and we are not. We are but muggles in his world. So we'll draw him as such. And part of that is this shape. So I'm kind of measuring here. Okay. See there. That's probably about right. Close enough. Close enough. I don't love the idea that I turn the pressure sensitivity off or on this pen, but I'm going to roll with it for a little while. I should be just blocking it in more, and I'm I'm getting a little bit too particular with things. So I'm making these plumb lines. I think I have to cut this eye off a little sooner. Got a little bit wide, so I'm bringing that in a touch and up and around. And then I'm just going to fill in some of this. Like so. Again, that shape, this eye I think is the focal point of this image. Our left side of the face is kind of the money of this image, the payoff. It's a good thing that everybody is not in my house today. Everyone is either working or has other things that they have to do, because they'd all be yelling at me that the weather is finally nice and I have locked myself in the basement to do a drawing. Of all times to do that, I should be probably outside enjoying the weather on a Saturday. I don't know where you're all from, but we got to take advantage of the weather where I'm from, because it's not nice all that often. So when it is, you best enjoy it. His kind of squinty eyes looking down at us. He's looking down his nose at you muggles. Must be a Weasley. I don't know if I can do my Lucius Malfoy impression right now. That part of my brain is not working at the moment. I'm using all the spatial powers that I have, so my logical side is not working. That's why it's difficult for people to talk when they draw. I try explaining that to my high school students who just don't know when not to talk. And I try to tell them that if you're ever going to draw well, you can't be talking while you're drawing. They don't believe me, of course. Or they say it's more important that I talk than I learn how to draw well, and then I just look at them funny. I look at them like Lucius Malfoy is looking at us. Muggles. It's coming along. It's coming along. We're making some stuff. We're making some lines. We're making some values. We're making some edges. And I don't know about you, but I'm having a good time. It's a good time to learn how to draw. Why not? Another horrible song. Also, I think this stream is going to post later, so if anybody hangs in there long enough and listens to the nonsense that's coming out of my mouth, if you can comment on the video and let me know how the quality of the stream was, that would be super helpful, because moving forward, I want to make sure that I'm dialing in the quality of these things and making them, making the best content that I can put out there. So I would appreciate your opinion in that matter as you watch a drawing happen. In the comments, I said, of this video, I said I'm going to draw something. I don't know what I'm going to draw, but I'm going to draw something. And it ended up being Lucius Malfoy from Harry Potter. Hello, Harry. All right, let's see. This curve up here is giving me some troubles, but you just want to make sure that it's not too high, not too low. It's not too high, it's not too low. Plumb lines again, drawing a straight line down and seeing where things link up. This nostril actually extends out here. We're actually looking up his nose, which is generally not a super appealing location for a camera angle. But again, I think the mood of this piece is that's an important part of the mood of the piece, I should say, because it establishes the fact that this character is dominant over us, the viewer. And I'm slowly building up the values and moving things around, tightening things up a little bit at a time. Just a little bit at a time here. So I'm going to go ahead and look at this. Pretty harsh shadow right here coming off the nose, pointing past the corner. There's a bit of a highlight here, or a halftone. Not sure. We'll work that out later. I'm not super worried about that yet. Still don't think I understand fully what the term halftone means. It's like highlights, shadows. I get that. A halftone? I think it kind of means like not all the way light. It's like a kind of light. I guess halftone sounds better than saying it's kind of light. Am I right? Okay. This is pretty much just an arc that comes through here and down this way. So I want to make sure that the corner of the eye follows that arc. It kind of peaks right here. If I drop a plumb line right there to make sure that I'm in the right zip code. If I draw horizontals, this is a bit below that. So that's going to be a little trouble. I might have to move this eyebrow up a touch to make room for this. This eye is a bit smaller. Another little useless piece of knowledge that I can throw out there is that everyone has eyes. No one's face is perfectly symmetrical. The more symmetrical your face is, the more, I think they call it like it's like a beauty test or something, actually. Like if you have a super symmetrical face, that's considered universally an attractive thing. But our eyes are actually not the same size. So you have a little eye and a big eye. And his little eye looks like it's this one on this side. The other one is slightly larger. The opening is slightly larger. And the shape. Is it round? We want to round out that. We want to kind of feel for these curves and these contours, right? I'm exploring this idea of like I'm not just gonna draw an outline around things. I'm actually gonna go across these forms and almost feel them folding. That's really important. I'm kind of exploring this as though my pencil is running across an actual three-dimensional form. And the more of that you can feel for, the more three-dimensional your image is going to appear. And that, my friends, is what we're after. In the end, is we're trying to simulate or imply a three-dimensional thing on a two-dimensional surface. So I'm working on a flat surface, but I'm trying my best to use these tools and tricks and principles to make it seem as though this is a three-dimensional form. When people will say, "Oh, it looks so real," or looks like it could jump right off the page, or it looks like I could actually feel the roundness of the forms. That's good. If people are saying that about your work, those are all good. That's good news for you. You've done your job at that point. All right. All right, Lucius. We'll work out the rest of these eyes later, but it does seem like he's looking at us, so we're good there. Kind of a little bit disappointed in the fact that I could probably have moved all of this over a bit, and it might be time soon for me to flip this canvas again, because as things start to get away from you, flipping the canvas gives you that fresh look. You're looking at it with fresh eyes, and you can detect, like, it really stands out. The errors really start to become apparent at that point. Not apparent like having children apparent. Apparent meaning I can really see them clearly. Flipping your canvas is not the way to become a parent of children, but it is the way of seeing your drawing through new fresh eyes. And if you're just thinking, this guy's crazy, you're not wrong. I'm a little crazy. But if I just sat here in silence and drew the entire time, where would the fun be in that? I like to make content that people can look at and listen to. That's a goal. It's a goal of mine. If you have to look at it, then I need your 100% undivided attention, and I know that that's a big ask. So I like to make some content that you could just listen to and go, I'll look once in a while to see what you're talking about. But you can listen to this while you're driving in a car. You can follow along with it when you want to. It would be an interesting experiment for somebody to make visual art on a podcast. So if I just drew and there was no visual and I just explained everything that I was doing, I don't know if that would be painfully horrible, like some sort of unnatural torture, or that would be like a super interesting experience to listen to somebody create something visual but not be able to see it. And then like there would be like a payoff at the end where they would reveal the drawing, like everyone would be able to see what was happening. And then you'd be like, I was way off. I thought it was something else. I didn't picture it was going to look like that. Maybe we're onto something here. Or maybe that's just another bad idea in the story of my life. A podcast where somebody draws something, but you can't see it. I probably would check it out. I don't know if it would work, but I think I would be curious enough to watch it at least once. Call me crazy. Because I am, and you wouldn't be lying. All right, let's see here. This is the line that indicates. No, it can't. Yeah, that's the end of the mouth right here. This kind of comes as a bit of a sharp line, and then this kind of curls down and swoops up really quickly and lines up just underneath that nostril. And he doesn't have thin lips. He's got some sort of average shape. They're not super full, but they're also not that thin. Is he grinning? I don't know. I feel like he's kind of grinning at us. And then in the reference, I just feel like he's scowling. So I want to try to curve that down a bit. Like, he doesn't smile very much. So we want to make sure that we got the right idea. There is a shape here. It's kind of interesting. It goes from pretty light to kind of light to pretty dark. So that's like one of those things where I'm ripping around this piece and I'm thinking, remember that for later. Take a mental note. All these little descriptors that I'm barking out at myself and you, because you're watching this video, are all things that are going to come up down the road and are going to be important. I think this horizontal right here, waving my mouse on the reference, floating it over. The peak of his chin is sort of right out here. So I want to make sure that the peak that I make is right out here as well. And it does kind of thin out his face as he's tilting back in this direction. Something like that. Cool. I like where that's going. All right. And then the part that comes in is pretty much right along the lip line right there. So this comes out and back in and then around. So his face was way out in left field there, which was not a good thing. Corner of the eye, I'm dropping a plumb line from the outside corner of the eye, and it should hit this angle. And we have the angle too far out. So it should be out here, and we've got it out there. We weren't actually that far out, actually. We're not too far away. I got to give myself a little bit of credit. It'd be worse if I was like, whoa, I was way off. I wasn't that far off. I was in the right zip code. All right, and then this, I kind of feel like I want to get this sort of a contour. So I'm just going to go ahead and put those types of lines in there. Almost as like little signposts. Like, hey, it goes this way, and then it comes out this way, and then it busts back in this way. So that when I go back over those things, I know that I had the right idea. Okay, that curves around here. Pretty close to his face. His hair isn't very full, but it is very silky. It is very shiny. I wonder what kind of conditioner he wears. Slytherin conditioner. Snake oil. Ha. Well, I don't know. Harry Potter humor, probably unnecessary, but it's out there now. It's out there as digital content for the world to enjoy for years to come. And I'm still moving things. Like, this is a part of the process that I have that I'll never really stop until I stop working on the piece. I'm always searching. I'm always comparing. I'm always looking and evaluating and scanning for things that kind of don't make sense. If something is standing out that it's in the wrong place, move it. Don't just go, well, that's good enough, because good enough is not necessary when it could be the best that it could be, right? Good enough is going to be when when you're done, when you've kind of said what you wanted to say, you've learned what you wanted to learn. Then you look at the overall piece and you go, it's not bad. It's okay. I learned something. I'll take something away from it. I mean, I'm not going to hang up this drawing. I'm not going to try to, sell it to someone. I'm not going to advertise it's the greatest drawing I've ever made. But if it is a solid effort, give yourself credit. Give yourself the credit. This is about halfway in between there and there, and the peak of where the chin cuts up, that actually looks like it's in pretty much the right place. This might come in just a bit, come down to about there, and then we cut straight over and out. Super, 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 super weird angle of the chin, I think. So I gotta be careful here. And again, I have to make some predictions and make some decisions, make some guesses, if you will. They're educated guesses, and the further along that I get on the piece, the closer it gets to actually being right. Like earlier, it was like a pure just drop something in there and, we'll see where it goes. Now we're getting into a little bit more high stakes because we're getting closer to at least the finished, like, under sketch, the under painting. His neck's all the way in here and kind of comes down this way. I had that right. If I drew a straight line across there, this would come to here, so it cuts across pretty tight right here. Then this comes to about right there and cuts down, catches a little bit of light. There's so much emphasis on this corner of the chin right now. That won't be there. I do want it to be right, but I don't want it to be, it's kind of inaccurate because it's dragging so much attention, and it's not going to in the finished thing. So if you can get away with hiding things, hide them. If you can get away with not having to draw things, don't draw them. Because, with so many calculations, you have so many chances to get it wrong. And the more chances you have of getting something wrong, the more chances you have that will indeed happen. You will get part of this drawing wrong. So if something melts away into a shadow and I can't see it, you better believe I'm going to go, yeah, that's a win. Hello. Don't have to draw that little piece. Don't have to draw all of that or really understand what's going on there. Winning the drawing. Okay, so we come around this way. This is pretty much a shape, and this shadow gets a bit soft as he comes through here. It's kind of like an S curve. It might be a little bit short, but we could always bring this down a bit if we need to. I don't know if I need to, so I'm not gonna make that jump yet. Straight down this way. Sometimes it's fun to make a drawing. If you're doing a digital drawing like this, the challenge is in making the drawing as accurate as possible, making the drawing, something that you are proud of making. We talked about that already. But another thing that's fun about digital drawing is it's really easy to check, to sort of fact check your process. And you can do that by overlaying the image. I don't like to do that like super often because I feel like you start to use it as a crutch, and you also you take away the opportunity to learn some things that you could have learned by just fumbling through it, struggling through it. So I don't like to do that. I don't like to jump at that and do it too often or too frequently. But basically what you would do is just lay the photo over the drawing and kind of go, oh, okay, yeah, I was a bit off there. That was pretty good. This part was way off. And you can make adjustments according to those issues. Almost like a self criticism, a self critique. But then the other thing you have to understand is the image itself that was photographed is an interpretation of reality. And then you are again making an interpretation of something. So you're interpreting an interpretation. And if you copy that exactly, then what's the point of making your own interpretation? Why wouldn't we just have the photograph? If you're trying to make a drawing of it, you're trying to learn something from it. You're really doing a deep dive into that that process of image making. If you don't, if you trace it, or you you copy it exactly, you're copying the same distortions that the camera did, and you're making some errors of your own. So it comes off looking like an attempt at something realistic, but it ends up being just a hot mess of, it's a poor excuse for a photograph because you tried making a drawing that was essentially a Xerox copy. So be kind to yourself. You're not a copy machine. And also allow yourself the opportunity to learn something from your drawings, and not pressure yourself into, well, I want to impress everyone with how accurate this is. Because accuracy and good art are not always the same thing. Usually they are, but not in every way. I want this to feel like my drawing. Even though I want it to be a recognizable version of this character, I don't want to just take a photo of the character and show it to people and say, look, it's a character. Yes, I get it. I want this to be a drawing that I made, a journey that I took, a way that I explored this portrait, and I kind of built it up from nothing, really, by pushing around these pixels. Okay, at this point, maybe what I would do is just it's kind of fun to look at what that looks like before and after. I haven't gotten to some of this other stuff here, but we're starting to see it take shape. I'm going to turn this down a bit as well. And we're going back to that, pretty much that 2-value drawing where it's either the paper or it's, well, maybe the 3-value drawing, but it's close to 2. So that, I want to take this down a bit more. There we go. And now what I might do is add in a layer, get a brush that has a little bit of texture to it. I like to, let's see, I got some other brushes down here that I like to use. My own brushes. This one looks like Louisiana or something. The shape of this brush, it's got a weird shape to it. I don't know if it's Louisiana. I'm not really good at state shape recognitions. But anyway, let me see. I'm going to go with 2 values underneath this. One is going to be relatively dark, maybe not as dark as what I was doing there. So something kind of along the lines of this. That looks pretty good. And then I'm going to make my highlights in there as well. So what I'll do now is just sort of block in these areas of dark. I know this is black, right? Like all this is black, and I want to start to not just rely on the lines in this image now. Now I'm trying to see what I can do with the value structure. How can I explain and describe these forms with value instead of just line? And I gotta get quiet for a minute here while I'm coloring. Focus on the coloring. Definitely not the hardest part, filling this in, but bear with me for a minute here, and I'll show you what the next step is going to be. I think what I probably would do is either paint all of this on a layer, all the values, or, you know, if you like working in various layers, you could separate it. That just gives you maximum control over the individual parts. So that might be something that you're interested in. I should probably extend this out this way a bit. There we go. I'll give it some interesting edge, some texture. Change the size of that, a little bit of that, and make a nice vignette. A vignette is just sort of a creative edge or an ending to a piece. So it doesn't just stop, it kind of fades off into something that's a little bit more visually interesting. What I don't want to do here is lose my drawing, but I'm not super worried about that because I still have the drawing on the layer above it, so I'm okay to be pretty liberal with these shapes or these values that I'm dropping in. By the way, if anybody watches this like on a replay situation, you watch this later and you want to be notified when I do this, if you click the bell notification, if you subscribe to my channel and click the bell notification, I think it'll let you know when I'm streaming something. If you wanted to see it, you know, firsthand. Or you wanted to be here for the live practice. And you can comment and just tell me. You could tell me in the comments, hey, next time you do that, let me know. If I know you already. But I'm pretty sure that hitting that bell thing is gonna let you know when things happen. When this is going down. And again, I'm just trying to lay in some pretty heavy 2-value tones here, where it's going to either be dark or it's going to be the color of the paper, or it's going to be light, which we're going to put in some highlights soon. And again, you can be sort of loose with this. I actually enjoy this part of the process because you're kind of messing up the drawing and you're kind of going through, and it almost feels like you're self to sabotage. But it really is important to not have the drawing be this precious thing that you're worried about ruining. because you're constantly breaking it down and building it back up and breaking it down and building it back up until it becomes something that is what you want it to be. Bring it a little darker in there. That would be something if I did this whole video and then I was like, I forgot to turn on the enable chat button. So people were chatting with me and it just wasn't working. That would be something. I can't say it would be a surprise, but it would be something. Because I forget stuff like that all the time. Uh-oh. I'm kind of messing up the edges and messing up the drawing quite a bit, making a bit of a mess because I want to build it up out of the ashes. I'm squinting my eyes because I want to really see where I need, what areas need to be part of that darker value structure and what areas I should be leaving alone. I'm going to take this overlying layer and make it, set it to, color burns a bit much. Dark, multiply and darken are usually the way to go, but I don't really like the way it looks, so I'm gonna opt out of that situation there. Ooh, I think I just hit a weird button. Let's see what happened. Oh, nothing. Doesn't look like anything happened. Oh yeah, it did. I blasted this. Oh, a couple people liked the video. Thanks. Appreciate it. Appreciate the likes. There's some playbacks going on where a few people have checked it out. I'm not sure. Like I don't. Again, this is the first time I've streamed anything on YouTube, so I don't know kind of how to monitor it and watch it. I've just been keeping an eye on the chat to make sure that I don't leave anybody hanging if there's a question or anything out there or a comment. As long as it's not a comment like, I hate you. That would just make me sad. Sometimes the internet can be mean. Well, I don't know. This is okay. The drawing is going to go through stages where it's like, it's ugly. It's going to have some ugly stages. It's not fun that they're ugly stages, but it's part of it, part of the process, you know. Like people, we go through awkward, where our appearances change. We go through stages where we don't look, we don't look like, not looking very attractive there. But it's part of the process, part of the drawing. The whole thing isn't just going to go smooth. It's going to be a series of issues and problems and changes and movements and adjustments until we get it right. There are some things that are bothering me here, but I'm not going to let them bother me too much. I'm going to keep on keeping on, and I'm actually going to I'm going to put in some highlights here. And I think that's probably, it might be a little bit too light, but we're going to put it down anyway. So this kind of lighter part of the face. I think maybe, yeah, we'll put it on the same layer. We'll get crazy. I was thinking about making another layer, but probably not necessary. Mm-hmm. So it took me a long time to kind of get Harry Potter, the the books, the movies. I was not really a huge fan. It kind of was a thing that was around, and I thought, you know, that it skipped me. Like I was a little too old for it, I think. Um, so I recently just started watching the series with my daughter, reading the books, and she really got into it. And I think that kind of helped me get into it. So yeah, it was a acquired taste for me, the whole Harry Potter thing. But I think it's a great series, great stories, great movies. I think they did a nice job too, like staying true to the feel of the book. Like the sequels to me, like sequels are the death of good film usually. Like there's a couple that are okay in the whole history of movies, but I think they did a good job with Harry Potter. I think they kept the same actors. They kept the same feel of the world. It was, they didn't blow it with the sequels. And the same thing can be said for some other films series. Um, I won't mention any names. Why be mean? But there were some movies that were sequels that should have never been sequels. That just kind of destroyed my childhood one little piece at a time. I hear my dog jumping around upstairs again. He's a 20-pound dog, but he sounds like a buffalo. I don't know. I don't know how he does it. He takes really heavy steps. Or he is destroying something. This drawing better come out good because my dog is destroying my house upstairs and I don't want to walk away and go see what's happening. So I'll just work away in denial down here. The brush is purposefully too big, by the way, because I don't want to get too precious with any area. Because again, as I had stated earlier, once you do that, once you get super particular and you fall in love with a brushstroke or a detail, you're very, very unlikely. It is very unlikely that you will adjust it, even if it blatantly needs to be adjusted. Because you're going, no, it's too good. Like, I don't want to ruin that. I don't want to erase that mark because I love that brushstroke, or I think I did a great job and I can't do it. Um, and you just sort of leave it and hope that it goes away, but it doesn't. It's gonna stay there and it's gonna ruin your drawing, so you might as well just deal with it and fix it. And what we're doing here, I guess, is the equivalent of an underpainting that you would do if I was working in another medium. Like I was working in oil, it would be pretty much the same process of building up these forms, these contours, adjusting things, painting with just some limited tones like a brown. Very often that would be the underpainting of a portrait. Then over the top of that, I would start to build my color and work my way from really loose to really tight in terms of the detail work. It's kind of fun because we're just almost like laying a mud mask on them. We're laying a death dealer mask on them. No, we're not. We're not doing that. Work too hard on the likeness to cover it all up. So I'm after an impression. I'm after a feeling here. I like, I want the likeness. That's important to me. But maybe equally as important is, did I capture the mood, the feeling of the pose? And I think it's getting there. I don't know how long we've been working on this, but it's getting there. And I'm making these choices like what is in the shadow and what is in the highlight. And I know that it's all not just that cut and dry, but I want to keep it as simple and clear as possible with the highlight side and the shadow side of the face. And I don't want to really get into the weeds too much with those tones that are kind of light, kind of dark, sort of shadows, but not totally dark shadows, not cast shadow. Yeah, it gets a little tricky. Or you start to trip yourself up when you get away from the simplicity of a two-value drawing. I don't really want to go highlight here, so I'm going really light and just putting a few of these marks, just really because I want to make sure that I am noting to myself that I need to see some of what's going on back in here. It's some of the darkest shadows on his face are up here. It's furthest away from the light. This plane turns away from the light. The light's coming from the snake side of the piece. So that everything that's on a plane that's facing the light is illuminated, and everything that is facing away is in shadow. It's really it's pretty intuitive and it's pretty simple. It just requires a bunch of repetition, practice to be able to transfer that. You're translating a language, I think. The language of light. And how can it be translated onto a two-dimensional form using shape and line? Like this. That's what we're doing. There is like a brooch thing that's got a highlight here. There's this little thing over here. He's got this really complex like snake thing here. These interlocking little highlights. And that's the first time that I'm kind of looking at that. So that's just a first read. There's a lot of work that would have to go into that to make it convincing. Let's see. We got a little bit of a thing here. We got mostly the highlight on the back here. Highlight side, a little bit of texture. So we'll just kind of dab that in. A couple little highlights across here. Blah, blah, blah. Like right now, it's kind of like a conversation where you're just going blah, 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 blah. And it's just kind of like a passing noise, right? You're just kind of putting something there, and then we got to pull something out of the soup. We probably could make the background really light now. I'm not sure if I totally want to do this, but I think I might just do it for the sake of, trying it out. I'm going to go ahead and make a selection around the figure. Something like that. And then we'll go up the snake. Around the snake staff. Around here. Cut across this way. All right, so we got a selection, and I'm going to go ahead and select the opposite of that. So I'm going to go select inverse. I'm really just curious to see what's going to happen here, actually. And then I'm going to fill that with white. It's probably too white. This is in the image, it's not quite that crazy. So maybe we'll put it as a little bit lighter than the color we used in the highlight. Like that. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and fill it with that color. That seems a little better. And I'm going to deselect. And then I think what I'll do is just merge this down. So I'm going to take this layer and merge it down so that it just becomes part of the background. Kind of like that. And I did this, hey, Spectre Comics is here. How you doing? Thanks for hopping on. I'm trying something new here, just doing a little YouTube stream, because what I have realized is that I haven't streamed in a while, but I was doing a lot of Twitch streaming with my art, and it was going cool. It was fine. I was building a bit of an audience, and it was a lot of people that I know that would come and hang out, and I like the format of it, but I figured, I'm trying to do two things. I'm juggling multiple things. I'm trying to build an audience on YouTube with video, and then I'm trying to build a stream audience on Twitch, and it was kind of like, it felt almost counterproductive. So I thought, instead of trying to pull people from one platform to another, why don't I just, go to one platform? So I'm giving this a shot on YouTube, and actually, I'm set up now in my new studio. So I think I shared online some of what I'm doing with my new studio move. I just had the internet dropped in today, and then I did like a real quick test, and it didn't work out because the technology I have over there is not the best. So I'm gonna have to move all my digital equipment from this basement to my studio, and that is going to be a bit of a thing. Going to be a bit of a job, but it's fun. It's exciting. I like having a new space that it allows for me to really focus on just creating and not having the distractions of working from home. And then for this, I decided to draw Lucius Malfoy. So that's the story of what I'm doing. How are you doing? It's been a minute since we've actually seen each other at a show. Remember those things? Conventions. But yeah. Hope you're doing well. Pretty good. Have not been to a convention in a while. Yeah, that's the story of all of our lives now currently. But I was really enjoying that part of the art journey, doing the convention scene. It was a different kind of challenge. It was almost like I don't know, in a weird way, it was kind of like playing a competitive art sport, where you're just like, oh, let's see how well I can do here. And like, you're competing for, you know, for the audience. And, it was just really sad when when all of that shut down and we're all just remembering when we used to do those things called conventions. I actually was at the last convention before everything shut down. It was, or the last big one, which was C2E2 in Chicago. And, it was a great show. I had a great time, but it was like knocking on the door of the whole shutting down of the world. So it became known as the last convention. Hope to do it again. Hope to get back out there soon or at some point. I'll settle for at some point. Let's see, I'm going to slide over my window here and open up the chat. I was cutting off the words here. Trying to get to C2E2 this year. Yeah, it's supposed to be in December. And I hope that we're able to make that happen. That'd be great. So they keep moving it, they keep pushing dates back. But I'm hopeful that at some point we'll get back to being able to do those things again. Hopefully you've still been creating art and, doing that. That's important. I think it feels like when we're not doing art as artists, it's like there's something missing, and it's this weird thing that I find myself, if I don't make art for a long period of time, I start to just find my mood deteriorating, and I don't really know what's happening. Like, I'm not very really conscious of it, but I feel myself like being really irritable or feeling like just like not right. And I'm like, oh, because I haven't made anything in a while. It kind of happened to me a little bit when I was doing this whole studio move, because there's so many other things that are going into that I'm, I wasn't really making art. I was just focusing on, the logistics of moving and building this new space and getting all the stuff set up that needs to be set up. Trying to do weekly art videos on YouTube. Awesome. Your latest comic issue. That's cool. Doing the art videos. I'm trying to get into that myself. I want to focus this year on trying to get some content out, some educational content, because that's what I do professionally anyway. But I want to start doing some online classes, mentorships. I want to do some in-person stuff if and when that becomes possible in the new studio space, along with pairing that with some of the streaming. I think that works really well, and really just trying to build an audience, I guess. Trying to do the thing, keep hustling and keep moving, make a go at it, working on various projects and various commissions. All right, let's see here. I think I probably need something a little less dark than this. So I'm going to start to climb up the ladder here, and we'll go with like an almost really dark. We'll call this color almost really dark. It's a technical term for a shadow. All right, everyone, get your tube of almost really dark and apply it to the shadow side of the face. Thank you. I would take that class with a teacher that was that weird. Bounce this shadow over this way. Yeah, so I think we need bit of more of a core, like a really deep, dark shadow in some of these areas without letting it get away from us too much. Get away from us too much, like we're all making this drawing together at the same time. You guys, you'd be screaming at your screen, "No! What are you doing? You're messing up our drawing." It's like a fan project. Made by fans for fans. Hello. Can't speak. Okay. Down this way. Across this way. That's where we want the darkest darks, the most contrast, because that's the focal point, the big payoff. Cut this shadow shape across this way. Bring it down here a bit. Let it seep into this. This is the play-by-play. It's like we're at a sporting event. We're marching down the field here. And you can say, relax, man, relax. It's just a drawing. Okay, let's see. We'll bring a little bit of this up in here. We want to make sure there's a nice, clean edge down here. It cuts in this way. All right, it's starting to feel a little bit like a drawing. Let's make this smaller. And we have not even zoomed in once. I think that's something else that is worth noting. We stayed kind of across the street this entire time because I don't want to get caught up in these little details, these little things that are just going to distract me from the important part. And the important part is the foundation of the drawing, the structure of the drawing, getting everything proportionally in line, getting the likeness down, getting the general shape of the overall face. There's plenty of time to get in here and zoom in 5,000% and do these little, what some people would consider the fun part, which I don't, by the way. I don't really love work that's overly I don't know what the word would be, but really sort of too rendered or too, it just feels artificial, especially in digital work. I think when digital work is overworked, it doesn't appeal to me. Deadpool, yeah, the Deadpool. So this whole idea of my Deadpool and my t-shirts that are have these versions of the characters. I never really went all out with that project and tried to get it out there and promote it. A couple times I was close to, speaking to some people about potentially picking up that as a product, as a thing, and collaborating with people that already have a distribution network. And I did eventually get a U.S. patent for my designs. So, at the end, it was a learning experience, and I was glad I did it. But I probably didn't need to get that crazy with it. I spent a tremendous amount of time and energy and money in that whole journey, and then I kind of was like, what am I doing driving around with boxes of t-shirts in my trunk, in the trunk of my car, selling them, at social events with friends. It'd be like, hey, you got any shirts in your trunk? Yeah. Can I get some for my kids? Sure. Come on out to the street and we'll do the deal. So yeah, I kind of walked away from that a bit, and I focused a little bit more on my on other projects, on my paintings and stuff. And it was really the logistics and was of carrying shirts around the nation to different shows was getting a bit, it was a little cumbersome, to say the least. But they are cool. I do enjoy them. And people still ask me about them quite often. Like I'll I'll see people at an event and they'll like, open up their jacket and they have one of my shirts on. I'm like, wow, yeah, it's cool. And it's really limited. There's only like there's less than 100 of all of these the designs out there. So you are one of 100 people in the world that have one. I only made, I think, 50 hats. So that's an exclusive club as well. I only made Deadpool hats, by the way. I didn't do any other characters. But again, it was fun, and those are all things that I chalk up as learning experiences. I don't have regrets about trying those things. So this drawing, I don't know how it looks to people that are that are checking it out, but at this stage, it's kind of like for me, it's still rough. It's still got a long way to go, but I know that if I wanted to, I can spend hours and hours and hours fiddling away on this, and I can make it into a finished piece that I think you know, is good, is solid, a solid effort. Um, Whether or not I'll do that, I do not know, but it's kind of it's kind of fun to get it sometimes to a point where you can finish it and then walk away. It's like, yeah, I know I could do that, and people be like, "What? Finish it! I like that one. I want that." And then you just go, "Nah, mic drop. I'm just gonna walk away because I know I could. I know I can get there if I wanted to, but I don't feel like it. I learned what I wanted to learn. I said what I wanted to say. I'm good." So it might go into that digital file cabinet of, maybe I'll finish this another time. A lot of painting digitally. I do a combination of traditional and digital media. One of my main things that I try to do is take both and combine them. So I try to use the strengths of the digital media, take advantage of that, and the strengths of traditional media, and challenge myself with that. So I'll do pieces that go from traditional to digital back to traditional. Sometimes I'll go a digital start and a traditional finish. There's a whole I always start and stop in different ways, and I still don't have like a set process for that. I let the piece dictate the way that I'm gonna do it. And I could switch. Let me switch to my other screen here, and you can let me see digital art, video, split screen. So there's a little change of pace. So like what's coming up here on the screen now is a little slideshow of some of my different pieces, and as those kind of flip through, some of those are completely digital, some of them are completely traditional, some of them are a mixture of both. But I'll let that run through, because you don't need to look at my face the whole time. My face isn't the important one. Lucius Malfoy's face is the important one here. This is what it's all about tonight. There's some issues with this eye, and I am going to solve them. But I keep kind of at this point I'm not really concerned with like getting any one part perfect. I just kind of my eye catches something and I bounce over, and then it catches something else and I go address that, and it's kind of back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I think now would probably be a good time to flip this again. So I will go to image rotation and flip the canvas, not vertically. That was unnecessary. Image rotation, flip horizontal. Yeah, look, I mean that is really off, and it just kind of it floated away from me, and I just kept kind of avoiding it. So when I cover up that portion with my thumb, you don't see me doing that, but I'm covering it up with my thumb. I need to move that. So I think what I'm going to do here is merge these layers. I don't need them all in separate layers anymore, so I'm going to go ahead and merge them. So now I have that as a thing. And then I'm going to go ahead and move this eye. And here is really the beauty of digital. It's like plastic surgery. Boink, boink. Move it around. And I've always wanted this eye to be a little bit further this way and a little bit further this way. So that starts to become a thing. And then I can actually rotate it a little bit as well. Better. And I'm squinting my eyes looking at this, trying to get it to be what I want it to be. Look at the difference there. Quite a jump. This is what happens when you're talking and you're drawing. You spend so much time talking and you're not paying attention to what you're doing, and next thing you know, one of their eyes floats up and bites you. Better. All right, so now back to business. And now what I might do is start to pick up various areas. I knew it was that eye was too high up. I saw it, and I just kind of avoided it and moved on, which was again not the best process or the best way of going about it. Avoiding your problems. We should hit them head on. He needs a little bit more forehead here. Not quite a 5 head, but a little bit more 4. All right, we're going to bring this up a touch. This eye, I think, got a little bit too bulbous. Bring that up a tiny bit. Bring this down a tiny bit. Those little movements make all big differences. Lots of, just a little subtle mark here and there can move mountains. And I think this is the part of the process where you start to get over the hump a little bit, and it becomes a little bit more of a dance, a little bit more of a problem, or the problems become smaller but super significant. So when the drawing is all really rough, it all sucks. So and it's all wrong. So you're just like, man, none of it really matters because this is all messed up. But now when you start to dial things in, it requires a bit more attention. A bit more attention to detail. But the whole process isn't like that. I think that's kind of the interesting part of painting is it changes, it evolves as you move through the steps. I feel like I just want more light in the forehead and knock down these darks. I can always put those crease marks in later. I don't want them to be too harsh. I don't know what that black mark is all about there, so we'll get rid of it. It was just distracting. It wasn't helping. So if it's not helping, it's hurting. Let's just get rid of it. He's looking a bit sleepy. Let's give him a little bit of highlight there. Aha. Now you're looking at us, my friend. Let's give that a bit more life. Perfect. Um, yeah, getting some notifications here because I was testing things earlier. So people that used to watch me on Twitch were commenting on the fact that it showed that I was on Twitch, but I wasn't there. So they went to look and I was gone. All right. Well, I'm going to have to save this and wrap it up because I have to go pick up my kids. They need to be collected from various points that they are where they are at. So thank you for stopping by, especially Spectre Comics. Thank you for the comments and a little bit of the discussion there. I hope to do this again often. I hope the next time that I do this, I'm going to be able to do it from my new studio, which is just going to be really awesome to have a space where I can just focus on creating content and creating artwork, and it's going to be good stuff. So before I get in too much trouble for not picking up my children, I have to break away from this, even though it's killing me a little bit because I just really want to fix a couple of things before I go. But getting myself into trouble is not my idea of a good time. So thanks again. I hope that you check out my stuff or subscribe or hit the bell notifications and all that YouTube stuff so that you can come and check me out again another time. So appreciate it. Have a good night, a good day. I don't know, whenever you're watching this. Maybe I should just stop talking and get out of here. So I'll see you next time.